Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned, because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
We got a great show for you today. I am so thrilled. Sharon de Ryck is joining me here today. Those of you know, look, when you are someone like Sharon, you are out in the world and you get a vision and an idea and then you go do it. And what I'm talking about is Healing Path Center and what that was about in 1998. So let me just be very clear. 1998, 1999, while most of us were sleeping, Sharon creates an amazing Healing Path Center, taught by mentors, teachers, instructors, Gestalt practitioners, all of the above. So when today we tell you we're going to talk about Master the Winds of Change, Part 4, we're going to learn about tools, what to use, how to incorporate them, but most of all, how to look at major life transitions. Even sometimes when you don't think they're like major, like in a hot minute. But we're going to talk at looking at that. How do you hold on to the vision and keep going when what looks around you seems daunting, especially when my pastor used to say the word change that. Sharon, you ever hear your pastor do that? I've studied a lot of different spiritual philosophies, but the one was my mom's pastor, and he would do at least once a month a sermon of some kind on change. And so, yeah, that's what he would say. But he didn't give you any tools.
Okay.
He's like, hey, you got it. So today, let's talk about this. How is it you personally, after everything you've done, what does it feel like, look like, taste like, Sharon, for you, when you're working with someone who's looking for a major change? And that could be anything. Give us let's just talk what we mean by major change in today's world, right? What does that mean to you?
Well, major change is all around us. It's like, it's coming on. I call it the tsunami that's just hitting each person, each one of us from either side, left, right, north, south. And we aren't really prepared. We think we are. Like you were just telling me about your move. We are not really prepared. We think we are. And then, of course, we come up against all these other obstacles. We never dreamed that we'd have to, how should I say, climb over these mountains or whatever it is that's right in front of you. So it's a difficult task. It is. I find it's a lot more different than when I first started. It was smoother to tell somebody how to change. Now everybody is just, how should I say, frazzled, dazzled, and not too sure about exactly where they want to be in this new world. It is a new world we are birthing, Dr. Pat, because we've got the AI, we've got people who are scared of their jobs, we've got people who are going through relationship problems because everything is changing. Then we have people who during COVID lost their jobs and have been, how should I say, they've been so despondent about getting back to the level that they were previously. It's a whole big, I could say mess, but there is hope. There is hope. There is a lot of things we can do. And that's where I come in. That's where I love working with change to a certain extent, because that's where new beginnings are waiting for people. And I'm sure you found a lot of new beginnings in your own life.
Well, this is what I want to talk about, because you see, you and I when we think about major changes, once upon a time, there were only 3 that got listed on the list, right? Once upon a time. And I don't know what year that was, probably Stone Age.
Yes.
But there were only Stone Age. There were only 3 things. There was somebody dies, right? There's not enough food where we're hanging out now. So we got to pack up the tribe and move, right?
Right.
And then the third thing had to do with relationships. So back in the day, there were only a handful of things that people work. Now, I say relationship. Today, you say relationships. We have a contemporary view. No, everything counted on us working together. Fast forward to where we are. We forgot that one of the universal energies is collaboration, mentoring, learning, and tutoring. And going through a major change, I've been through them, and not a single one I could do alone. However, this moving out of the office space deal, I thought was like a piece of cake, and we did it. We did it on time. Everybody got set up. But it's always complicated when you're a corporation. Now, I don't have to do it alone, but so much of my life I've done alone. Tell us what the difference is between trying to battle the tornado of major change with someone and without someone. Come on now.
Okay. With someone, you have somebody to guide you, somebody to be there step by step with you and show you a way that you can succeed. And without someone, which I've done quite often myself, you've got to make the mistakes and you've got to do things that you think might be right. However, when it comes down to the crunch, you find out that no, that wasn't what was the right thing to do. You correct yourself, but it takes a lot longer. Let's just say it takes longer, because when I work with someone who's going through a major change or who wants change too, there's some people who come and they really want change, and I work with them and they're focused. When they want the change, they're eager, they have a vision, they know what they want. And it's like, I'm working with an energy and a person whose frequency is very high. When there's someone who's been thrown out into the wild and has to find, how do I navigate this change? That is a huge difference. There is a lot of difference there.
This is what I'm trying to say, because we don't know what we don't know. But I'll tell you right now, it's very different. Once upon a time, you could go through a major change and, just like I lost both my mom and my sister 2 years back to back. And, you've got your job and you don't take a month off, or you don't do, you just learn how to pick yourself up and then kind of move forward. But we're living in very different times now. We're living in a time where people are worried a lot. They're worried about their job. And for whatever reason, we're starting to see more and more people ask for help. So let's talk about the outcomes and the differences. And I could just tell you from my perspective, once I realized, I know this sounds so silly, I can't even believe I brought it up on air. Once I realized that I wasn't just moving out of someplace, that I was changing an official address for a federally registered corporation, then I called 3 different people and I said, help me with this form, help me with this. And boy, that was so much better. But this is the difference now. We have so many things coming at us, everything from AI to AI picking your new boyfriend, girlfriend.
That's right. That's a new one.
That's the new one. That's the new one. So what are the outcomes? What have you seen when people actually get the support they need versus they don't? Tell me what you see.
Okay, when they get the support they need, it's like an aha moment. They can breathe and they sort of relax into whatever it is that you're going to, like, let's say I'm working with that person, whatever it is that I suggest. And I make sure that they're very mindful of what I'm telling them, because sometimes people can't even think straight. They feel so much more relief in their entire body. The stress goes off. And you know what I found? Dr. Pat, and I know this is, I'm not supposed to do this, they say when you're mentoring, but I'm always available for my clients. And there was one lady who would call me sometimes 3 or 4 times in the night, and I'd think, oh my goodness. And I had to set some boundaries, but I realized she was at her wit's end. She didn't know what to do. She needed support. And I thought, Sharon, you're supporting this woman. And once she gets her legs, or she knows that she can stand on her own, she's not going to do this. And sure enough, and she thanked me an awful lot for that. But people need a lot of support, a lot of hand holding, especially kind of thing, even by the phone. So I found it completely different to how I used to work previously. And it's a whole new ballpark for me in a sense, because I have to be more compassionate. And not that I'm not compassionate, but I have to think, no, if that were me, how would I feel? I know I have boundaries, and I won't be calling you all the time if you were working with me because of my background, right? But these people have only me. So I can't always say, well, I'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock or something like that. No. So I have found it's a whole different ballpark. It's not like I used to get somebody in and work with them and give them homework and say, well, you know what you want in life, and just write it down, and we're going to go from there, and I'm going to guide you through it and mentor you through that. No, it's not. These people have emotional problems. They have a lot of problems when it comes to feeling, they all of a sudden have no, how should I say it, no inward backup. They don't feel that they've been seen or heard. And that's a whole different thing. I've not seen that before. I mean, not as bad as it is today. People just tend to fall apart sometimes. So it's a completely different way of mentoring. I have to really think, okay, how do I handle this? And I try to get their energy. I work, because I'm a holistic practitioner as well, I try to get their energy level up. I try to get them to vibrate at a little higher vibration so that they can be open to what is going to be, handed out to them, what I'm going to be talking to them about. If they're looking for a job and they have to go for an interview, like I got a call today from somebody I don't even know. She found me because she was on my website and she saw my interview with you. And she said, how I got second interview, how do I go about this? And I thought, should I tell her that I'm busy or what? And then I just spoke to her for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to connect later. But it's weird. I haven't had this happen before. 2025 is a new setup for me. I used to normally just start with a client and have them, especially if they're going through a change, have them get some clarity about what they would like for their future to look like. And then we would discuss what they want to do, how they want it, and if they want to transition out from what they're doing. And I would guide them. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I might need some help here as well, because it's just a different ballpark altogether. And with AI, everybody is giving me their AI version when I'm talking to them about what they should be doing. And I'm saying, well, gee, if you could go with AI, I think that's perfect, because then you can just follow that. They said, but AI isn't going to support me the way you do. And I said, well, let's get to a middle part here and see how we can work with this. But it's all over the place, Dr. Pat. So it's not going to make a lot of sense to a lot of people, because I'm normally used to having somebody come in and I work with them, ask them what they would like, how they'd like their life to be, what changes they would like, have some clarity about it, communicate it to me. And I had a system. Now this system seems to be going out the door a little bit, so I have to regroup with it.
Yeah. No kidding. I mean, I had to look at the whole coaching side of what I do. There's a couple of things here that we look at. One, I look at the company and business, and the office move was at the top of my priority. Mm-hmm. Then I think about the changes we're making here. Then I think about our personal service to each of you. And we've had to change it. If we don't respond back to you in 12 hours, we get a nasty email. So we're really on a 12-hour to 24-hour clock to respond to everyone. But we've been doing it so long that it's normal. Here's the part that most of us are changing: our coaching, our mentoring, our therapy, whatever we do practices, because I was just asked the other day to coach somebody 24/7, be on call for 24/7. And, I thought about it and I said, what does that even mean, Sharon? And then I spoke with them and I said to the individual, I do that coaching for a handful of people, but there's a really significant price point for that. You know what the response was? I don't care what it costs. Now, that's the sense of urgency you and I are talking about.
That's right. It is. And I get that all the time. And can I come? This is the one. There's one specific person that I see. I still continue to see at my house because she lives not too far away. And she calls, can I come in about 15 minutes? No, I'm sorry. I'm going to be on a call for the next hour or, things like that. And it's like you don't have a life really, because everybody thinks that you're always available. And I'd love to be, but then you have got to sort of also set some boundaries as well. I can say that I have, well, not quite a 24/7, but quite close to that right now. And it can be very difficult as well, because you have a life and you're trying to get things sorted out in your life. And then you also have to think this other person, their life is going to pot or going to hell or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
So you have to be there for them. So it's completely different.
Yeah.
And sometimes you talk and you say what they need to hear. And then I get a call back. Actually, what was it you told me? Exactly. Can you tell me again? And it's like, it's very hard. And I really sympathize with people at this point, because there's a lot of that feeling unsure, the unsureness of where they're going, what they're doing. So I'm starting to learn a new way, actually, of mentoring. I guess I can say a little bit of coaching in there too, whatever you want to call it. However, it's not how it used to be.
Yeah, it's not. And, we all have to make adjustments. And, part of this is also having, for us, one of the most incredible things that's going to help with this is the development of our own human potential app. And we're in the process of doing that because we realize people do need solutions. They do want to know, I'm feeling really down today, and they want to be able to click or go someplace.
That's right.
And say, who can I talk to right now? Or what can I do about it? Or what's the exercise? And those are great for immediate day-to-day, but major change, you need to work with somebody. That's the end
trust.
of that.
You know what I found out, Pat? There's a trust that you build with people. And once you build that trust with them, it's a beautiful, beautiful connection, because then they trust you with their life. They trust you with everything that's going on. And I don't take that very lightly.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing about change is you don't know what you don't know. Excuse me. Major change is you don't know what you don't know. We develop websites for our people, and only our people, on request. And we used to have a style where we would develop them and then show the client. Now what I do is I develop one page that shows the style, the art, the font, how it would look different. And they look at that, and that's about all they can take in. And what that's about is, yes, I approve it, keep going. You see, this is the way incremental mentorship and coaching must be. So for you, I bet you got a whole new calendar.
Well, yeah, I have been, because previously I would work with them to make sure that they're in the mindset of where I'm going to be taking them. And they have to be ready for it. And normally people would come to me and they want to change, a big change, and they don't want the job, or they need a new job or whatever. And I would have them envision what it is, how they'd like their life to be. I said, you don't have to think about it. Don't stop. Just write every single thing down that you want. and how you feel and what you want to feel and where you want to go and the whole thing. And then we're going to go from there, because I deal with a certain way of, I call it, and I've learned this, it's a prediction. You predict it. It's called, I think, who was it that brought this up? Richard Wiseman, I think, he called it the luck factor. I think you know who he is.
Yeah.
And he worked with the luck factor. And I never even knew about him until after I really got my luck into being a speaker. And this is like 25 years ago. And I had, never knew about Richard and his whole thing. So the predictive encoding of you put your mind, and because I experienced it, I used it with a lot of my clientele, and it works beautifully. Of course, that's just like the start. And then you go through a whole months with them. But why I liked it so much is because it worked for me.
Yeah.
I can remember thinking, I do all these workshops. And this is like 25 years ago when I was really into the big workshops. And I think I'd like to be a speaker. Oh, yeah. I'd be a speaker. And this is me, all 25 years ago, full of myself, and I'm going to be a speaker. I go to this friend who was having a show at her house. She just started a new line of clothing, and all these women are fitting on clothes. And then this person comes over to me and she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a speaker." And I thought, oh my God, I hadn't done this, but I do run workshops. And then she said, "Oh, that's lovely. I just need one more speaker. I'm organizing a teacher's night together, and it's a breakout rooms, and let me have your information." That's how I broke into. That was my first speaking gig. I got $300 for that, and I always remember that. But that's exactly the predictive programming and encoding that I work with my clients, a lot of them who can handle that. And you'd be surprised. Within 2-3 months, they're like, wow, things are happening, because their mindset, it's your mind that is bringing this to you. It's not just that you're slaving away. You start to attract to yourself. And it's also called the law of intention, the law of intention.
Yes,
because
exactly.
You're intending to be that. But I can't use that too often these days, if you know what I mean, because I have to work with everybody differently. And it's a learning for me.
Everybody is different. I sent an email this morning to one of my team members, and, I tried to, as quickly as I could, make the statement, you work with people individually, and it gives them a level of respect and personal conversation and care. Mm-hmm. And there are some things you can do with a group, but there's some things you don't. And, mm-hmm. When we enter this world, here's what I want to say to people. You don't know what you don't know, because what you thought you knew about mm-hmm. how to go through major change, the game has changed, the rules of the game. How do we find out, Sharon, how to work with you? Mm-hmm. How do people reach out to you? How to connect with you?
Okay. I have my website, which is SharonDeRyck.com, and they can go there and they can just see everything. I've got everything on my website. And of course, I'm going to be upgrading it eventually. So, and I work with people who are right in the middle of change, who would like to change their lives, and people who are very dissatisfied with their lives. And I've always found that they've come out on the other side so much happier, sometimes completely different to what they had gone in thinking they were going to be doing. So, and of course, my telephone number is also on my website.
Perfect.
Yes.
Because this is it. You do come out differently than you ever thought you would, because whatever thought you had becomes absolutely outdated the mm-hmm. minute that you're hit with a major change.
Exactly.
Even this office move, did parts of it really well. Then I didn't even know what I didn't know. And it's taken me at least a week now, vigilantly, diligently, just mm-hmm. really working with different institutions. But you know what? I don't think we're meant to know everything.
Mm-mm.
I think that we've been given a bandwidth. That's why you're here helping people. Thank you for today. Last thing, what's your personal message? What would you like to leave us with today?
Oh, there was something that I loved. It was a saying that I have, and it is what it says. Like, let me see if I can remember it. Whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. Because people have got to have a future, and they must think ahead of what they would love their lives to look like. So, and I think that was by Paul Meyer. And I found that years ago in a dustbin when I worked with Motorola. I'm not kidding you. It was in one of the managers. It was in his dustbin, and I picked it up and I have it framed in my therapy room.
I love
So
it.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So whatever you ardently desire to and
Yeah.
believe, yes, and that's hope for people because we are.
Yeah.
We have this wonderful way of envisioning our future. And that's another thing I would like people to do. Envision the future you want
Let's
for
talk
yourself.
about that next time, because I think
Yes.
that's a great thing to talk about. Here's what I want to leave you with. If you don't know and you've got intuition, remember, if you do own that White Album by the Beatles from whatever year that came out, and the saran wrap or wrap what is still on the album, don't open it. You don't know what you don't know.
Don't know.
And what we're trying to say is start to ask questions, start to inquire, start to look at your life as if it were a pathway to your heart's desires. We'll see you next time.
Next time. Thank you.